Okay, let's unpack this. We're jumping into a deep dive today, focusing on how to manage and, well, grow a crane service business.
Right.
You've given us a fantastic stack of sources.
Right.
Everything from general guides like growing and managing your crane business to practical insights from folks in the industry.
Yeah, companies like Elk River, Rapid Works, New Heights Insurance.
And a whole bunch of others, Build Ops, Cap Forge. It's a really rich collection you've pulled together.
It really is. And our goal here is to take all that material and, pull out the absolute most important nuggets of knowledge for you.
Right.
We want to figure out the core strategies for attracting and, just as importantly, keeping top crane operators.
That's a big one.
Definitely. And reducing the owner's personal workload, getting them out of the weeds, structuring the business so it can run smoothly without you needing to be, everywhere at once.
Independence for the owner.
Exactly. And then making those big strategic decisions about scaling up versus maybe keeping things steady.
So consider us your guides through this material you've put together for us to look at. Let's dive right in, because one challenge that just screams out from almost every source is finding and keeping skilled crane operators. It's tough out there, isn't it?
It really is a critical bottleneck, for many businesses in this sector. The sources offer a multi-pronged approach here.
Okay.
Starting with the idea of building a strong brand. It's not enough to just say you're hiring.
You need more.
Yeah, you need to communicate why someone would want to work for you, specifically you.
Like showcasing maybe unique projects or your safety record, things like that.
Exactly. One source specifically points out highlighting what makes you stand out. Maybe you have an advanced fleet, maybe you work on cool high-profile jobs.
Or that impeccable safety record operators trust.
Right. Put that front and center, not just in job descriptions, but, social media, anywhere potential operators might be looking.
So making the company actually look like a place they'd want to build a career, not just clock in and out.
Precisely. And to make that concrete, share stories, use employee testimonials or maybe day-in-the-life kind of content. Show how someone started as an operator and grew into, say, a lead technician or a supervisor. It visually demonstrates that career path within your company.
And that ties into having a clear value proposition for them and EVP.
Absolutely. For this industry, the sources say that EVP needs to detail benefits that are really highly valued by skilled tradespeople.
How says?
Think paid certifications, specifically those crucial NCCCO licenses, maybe tuition for refresher training, performance bonuses.
Things that really matter on the ground.
Yes, and list these benefits up front in job postings. Be explicit about it.
Okay, so you're selling the company, detailing the benefits, but how do you actually find these specific skilled operators? Like you said, it's not like they're just browsing general job boards all day.
No, definitely not. That's where targeted recruiting becomes essential. Sources like Rapid Works really emphasize this.
So less casting a wide net?
Exactly. Post on industry-specific platforms, heavy equipment forums, places where qualified candidates are actually likely to be looking.
Makes sense.
Partnerships are also key. Connect with trade schools, training the next generation. Union halls, maybe veteran transition programs.
Oh, yeah. Veterans often have great skills for this, don't they?
They often do. Relevant experience, discipline, plus sources mention there can be tax credits for hiring vets.
I remember seeing a point about internships or apprenticeships as well. Is that a viable path?
Yes, it's definitely mentioned as a longer-term strategy. You could, for example, offer to fund an entry-level laborer's NCCCO certification.
In exchange for what?
Usually in exchange for a required service commitment. It's an investment, really, in building your own talent pipeline from the ground up.
Okay.
Another idea is looking for people with what they call adjacent skills.
Like who?
Maybe operators of other heavy construction equipment or experienced mechanics, people who already understand heavy machinery and could be cross-trained into crane operation.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you find them, you hire them. Now, how do you keep them? Especially when competition for skilled labor is, fierce. Compensation and incentives must be huge.
They absolutely are. Multiple sources stress that you must stay competitive with pay. It's table stakes.
Just keeping up with the market.
Yes, review wages regularly. And consider tying raises directly to tenure, to reward loyalty.
Beyond base pay.
Oh, yeah. Performance-based bonuses or profit sharing. maybe tied to safety milestones or job efficiency, those can be powerful motivators.
Were there specific examples of those kinds of incentives that stood out in the material?
Yeah, several practical ones were listed. Things like per diem for travel on out-of-town jobs, overtime premiums, obviously standard but worth noting, and specific retention bonuses, maybe after an operator hits a milestone like 1 year with the company. One source mentioned that specifically.
And benefits?
Yeah.
Health, retirement?
Don't underestimate comprehensive benefits, health insurance, retirement plans, paid time off, and even non-monetary perks, like trying to offer flexible scheduling where possible, can make a difference.
What about signing bonuses or referral bonuses?
In a truly tight labor market, yes. One source suggests considering signing bonuses for the right new hires, and definitely referral bonuses for current operators who bring in qualified people they know. Leverage your existing team.
It's clear money's a big part of it, but it sounds like, well, culture and opportunity are just as critical for keeping people long-term.
Absolutely. Maybe even more so for retention. In an industry like this, creating a genuinely safety-first culture is just non-negotiable.
How do you build that?
Regular toolbox talks, investing in advanced safety training. It's not just about compliance. It protects your team, obviously, but it also builds immense trust.
And trust leads to retention.
Exactly. One source explicitly links that feeling of safety and being well treated to lower turnover. As you'd expect, really.
Workers will choose jobs where they feel safe.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right. And clear communication is part of that trust equation. Weekly check-ins, for instance, can ensure operators feel heard, that their concerns are addressed quickly.
Not just feeling like a number.
No. And crucially, outline clear career paths within the company. Show them the potential progression, maybe operator to senior operator, perhaps even into an operations supervisor role.
Give them a ladder to climb.
Yes, and commit to promoting from within whenever possible. Highlight internal success stories.
Like an employee of the month, but maybe more specific.
Yeah, one source suggested something like an internal Crane Operator of the Quarter award. It recognizes excellence and shows what advancement actually looks like in your company.
So it comes back to that point from the insurer source.
Yeah, it really nails it. Workers pick jobs where they feel safe and are treated well. It's both.
Okay, that's a solid look at finding and keeping the talent. Now, let's tackle that other massive challenge many business owners face. The owner being the business. The bottleneck for everything. How do the sources suggest reducing the owner's personal workload?
Oh yeah, this is a common point of pain. You see it everywhere. The sources universally champion delegation as like the core solution.
Just hand stuff off.
Well, the first step is identifying everything on your plate as the owner and ruthlessly figuring out what only you absolutely must do versus what could actually be done by someone else.
Like administrative tasks? Is that the low-hanging fruit?
Exactly. Administrative work billing, data entry, basic scheduling, that's prime territory for delegation. Get an office manager or a bookkeeper involved.
What about talking to customers?
A lot of customer communications, handling initial inquiries, sending routine quotes, follow-ups can often be delegated to staff or maybe managed more efficiently through a shared system.
Can you give an example?
Sure. One source gives a simple but effective one. Create template emails for routine things like confirming job completion or sending out standard bills. Then assign a specific team member to handle sending those.
Freeing up the owner from that daily email grind. That alone sounds huge.
It is. And the key takeaway here isn't just offloading tasks. It's that delegation, done right, improves overall business efficiency, and importantly, it empowers your employees. Shows you trust them.
Beyond just handing off tasks, how does technology help streamline things? Can tech take some of the load?
Oh, technology is a massive lever here, absolutely. Automating core processes like billing and scheduling is pretty much essential these days.
What kind of tech?
Look for integrated software solutions, where your scheduling, your time tracking, and your invoicing are all connected.
So they talk to each other.
Exactly. One source describes how construction apps can automatically generate an invoice the moment a job is completed and marked off the schedule.
Wow. So the work finishes and the bill is practically sent itself. That's efficient.
Pretty much. Some mobile invoicing apps even let crews send bills right from the field, sometimes even if they're offline. That drastically speeds up getting paid.
And accuracy.
Right. There was a note in one review about how when invoicing apps integrate time tracking, the time logged by the crew feeds directly into the invoice. It cuts out manual entry errors and speeds up the whole process.
What about bookkeeping?
Definitely link your bookkeeping software like QuickBooks or FreshBooks using integrations or maybe tools like Zapier so expenses get logged automatically. Reduce that manual data entry.
Okay, that handles billing and finance. What about keeping communications flowing smoothly, both internally and with clients? That takes time, too.
It does. Streamlining communication is vital. For routine client updates, think email templates again, or automated appointment reminders through scheduling apps or even texting services.
And inside the company, between the office and the field.
For internal comms, yeah, especially between the office and crews out on site, instant messaging platforms are invaluable. Slack, Microsoft Teams, even a simple group chat, real-time updates.
That's down on phone tag.
Massively. One source mentioned having a dedicated Slack channel per job, for instance. Crews can share photos, permit updates, status changes immediately.
That's smart.
And for non-core communications, think about outsourcing. Maybe a virtual receptionist service to handle initial incoming calls and route leads. Takes that burden off internal staff or the owner.
What about the owner feeling like they need to be on every job site? To check on things, handle reports. That takes a ton of time.
Yeah, that's a big one. Digitizing your site inspections and reports is key here. Using a mobile app designed for field work, FieldWire, GoCanvas, there are several options can dramatically reduce the need for the owner to be physically present everywhere.
How does that work?
You build custom checklists within the app for everything. Daily safety checks, crane inspections, final punch lists. Crews, or maybe a delegated supervisor, complete them on site, add photos, notes.
And that automatically generates a consistent report without the owner needing to collect paper.
Precisely. One source used FieldWire's inspection module as an example. You tailor checklists for specific tasks, like a pre-lift safety walk. The team completes it digitally in the field, and the report is automatically compiled and stored.
Who does the inspecting if the owner isn't there?
Well, if staffing is tight, you could train an experienced operator or a foreperson to take on these inspection duties. It's about building a system for oversight that isn't solely reliant on the owner's eyes being everywhere.
Okay, so that moves us perfectly into the next piece, doesn't it? Organizing the entire business structure so it truly doesn't depend on the owner's constant physical oversight. This is about building a business that can, well, run itself, at least to a degree.
That's the ultimate goal for many owners, right? Creating a framework where the business functions smoothly, even when you're not physically there.
So where do you start with that?
The foundation is defining clear roles and documenting your processes. Sounds basic, but it's crucial.
Roles like?
Who's the lead operator or, say, foreman? Who handles dispatch and scheduling? Who does the admin work? Clearly define those responsibilities.
And processes. You mean writing things down?
Exactly. Write down your standard operating procedures, your SOPs. How do you set up a crane for a specific type of job? What's the exact procedure for maintenance logs, the step-by-step billing flow? How are safety meetings conducted? Get it out of the owner's head.
Onto paper or like a digital platform?
Yes. Use written manuals or, better yet, online platforms like Trainual or Notion to document these SOPs, make them accessible.
What about managing the actual workflow day to day?
For that, project management tools are key. Things like Trello, Asana, Monday.com. They can serve as a central hub for tracking jobs.
How would that work in practice for, say, a crane business? Can you give an example?
Sure. You could set up a Trello board for every project, have columns representing stages, maybe scheduled, in progress, needs inspection, invoiced, complete.
Okay.
Then you add tasks within those columns, obtain necessary permits, perform pre-lift safety check, send final rental invoice. This visual workflow makes handoffs clear and ensures steps aren't missed, even without the owner directly overseeing every single step.
That makes sense for tracking the work. But someone still needs to lead the team when the owner isn't there, right?
Absolutely critical. You have to delegate leadership to a trusted second-in-command.
Who would that be?
Could be your most experienced senior operator. Maybe you hire a dedicated supervisor. The crucial part is giving them real authority over day-to-day field decisions and scheduling.
So the owner's role shifts.
Yes, significantly. The owner shifts from being the primary doer to being more of a manager or advisor.
They become the owner's proxy in the field, essentially.
You got it. This person conducts site checks, handles client interactions on site, maybe troubleshoots minor issues, and reports back. One source noted, giving team members the authority and responsibility to do certain things is exactly what frees the owner to focus on growth or, frankly, just step away sometimes.
Do they need special training?
Good point. You absolutely need to invest in training this person, send them to leadership courses, maybe advanced equipment training, so they are genuinely capable of covering for you effectively.
How do you maintain control and quality, though, when you're not physically overseeing everything?
Mm,
That's probably a big fear for owners.
It is, and that's where accountability systems come in. You maintain oversight, but through regular check-ins and focusing on measurable goals.
Like what kind of goals?
Think jobs completed per week, equipment uptime percentage, how quickly accounts receivable are being paid, key performance indicators. One source mentioned using software to automate reminders or reports.
Oh, like alerts.
Yeah, like getting an alert if an invoice hasn't been paid after 30 days, or if scheduled work hasn't started on time according to the system. The system flags the exceptions.
So the owner isn't having to constantly chase everything down. The system brings issues to their attention.
Right. You can then hold brief weekly reviews, perhaps quick video calls with your delegated managers. They update you, you provide guidance, but without needing lengthy site visits for routine checks.
The goal being?
The goal, as one source put it, is to keep things running smoothly even when you're not in the room. It's that blend. Clear delegation, documented procedures, and monitoring through systems, not constant hands-on micromanagement.
Okay, that lays out a really clear path. Attract talent, free up the owner's time, build an independent structure. For the big strategic question that looms over everything, scaling the business. To scale or not to scale, and if so, how?
Yeah, this is often the final crucial decision point discussed in the sources we looked at. And the first step really is to honestly assess your readiness and capacity for growth.
It's not automatic that you should grow.
Not at all. Growth should always be deliberate, strategic. Before you even think about adding another crane or hiring a bunch of new people, you need to ask some hard questions.
Right.
Do we actually have the capital ready? Is there consistent work available right now to support more equipment and staff? Or are we just busy right now? And importantly, do we have the management bandwidth to handle a larger, more complex operation?
Right, it's not just the cost of the crane itself, but the cost and complexity of managing a bigger team, more jobs, more overhead.
Exactly. One rental expert source warned that scaling too fast is a really common pitfall. It can just overwhelm your resources, your cash, your people, your systems.
You need the foundation first.
You absolutely need the time, resources, and expertise in place before you expand significantly. They also mention that simple things like inventory tracking become critical as your fleet grows. You need robust systems just to know where your assets are and their condition.
And they made an interesting point, didn't they, that growth isn't the only definition of success.
They did. One source was very clear. Some small businesses are intended to be just that. It ultimately comes down to your priorities as the owner. Deliberate, sustainable growth is one path. But building a highly profitable, stable operation at its current size might be the right goal for you. It's a valid choice.
Okay, but let's say someone does want to grow. What's a way to do it without taking on immense financial risk right out of the gate?
Incremental growth using equipment rentals is a strategy that came up strongly in the sources, especially from rental companies themselves, naturally.
Renting cranes instead of buying immediately.
Yeah. Renting allows you to expand your capacity basically on demand. Instead of buying that second or third crane immediately, rent one for a specific large project to meet a deadline.
Or to test the waters.
Exactly. Test out if there's enough consistent work in a new service area, or maybe with a different type or size of crane you don't currently own. It's a lower risk way to experiment or handle peak demand.
So you're not stuck with a huge asset if the work dries up.
Precisely. Renting allows you to take on many more jobs than your own fleet might support alone, but without that massive long-term capital commitment and depreciation hit.
Any specific example?
One source gave an example. If you have an occasional need for a specialized task, like heavy winching, renting that specific piece of equipment makes far more sense than buying something expensive that sits idle most of the time.
Rentals offer adaptability.
Huge adaptability. You can quickly scale up when demand surges and just return the equipment when things slow down. Plus, you often get access to newer technology available in rental fleets, things like telematics or advanced safety features, without the capital investment required to buy that new tech yourself.
As you do scale, though, whether through rentals or purchase, those systems we talked about earlier, the software, the processes, they become even more crucial, don't they?
Oh, absolutely essential. You must upgrade your business systems to handle higher volume and complexity as you grow. Manual methods?
Spreadsheets and paper.
Yeah, spreadsheets, paper-based processes. They simply won't work effectively for things like estimating or accounting when you're scaling. Robust estimating and job costing software become non-negotiable.
And maybe specialized software for the crane industry itself.
Yes, several sources highlighted specialized crane management software, things like RapidWorks or BuildOps were mentioned, that integrate dispatch, maintenance, scheduling, invoicing all into one platform.
The all-in-one solution.
Kind of. This integrated system is incredibly efficient. It allows you to handle much higher volumes of work, more complex scheduling, more invoicing, with relatively little extra effort on the administrative side compared to fragmented systems.
Cloud-based helps too, I imagine.
Definitely. Using cloud-based solutions for sharing real-time data plans, schedules, maintenance records is critical for a growing team that might be spread across multiple sites.
So good systems mean growth doesn't automatically mean chaos.
Right. When your systems are centralized and integrated, adding a new operator or taking on a new job becomes primarily a matter of data input into an existing scalable framework. One source called this true scaling, where ideally your revenue rises much faster than your administrative cost.
So the right software is really the backbone of scalable growth.
It absolutely is, but remember, scaling is fundamentally about workforce capacity too, not just equipment and software. You need to train and hire strategically. When bringing on new operators, replicate your best practices rigorously. Screen for that safety mindset we talked about. Train them thoroughly in your documented SOPs. Consistency is key.
What about getting more out of the team you have?
Cross-training employees is a great idea. Maybe teaching a skilled mechanic basic crane operation for emergency situations or vice versa adds resilience and flexibility.
And you definitely need to build out that management layer we discussed earlier.
Absolutely critical as you grow. The owner cannot remain the sole point person for everything. Appoint an operations manager, an administrative supervisor, someone to handle day-to-day oversight.
Freeing the owner up again.
Yes. One source suggested a strategy where the owner delegates tasks like estimating or even project management to trained staff members. This allows the owner to focus entirely on high-level strategy, business development, client relationships.
And the number one rule as you grow.
Never let expansion erode your quality or safety standards. Hold new hires, subcontractors, everyone to the same high bar your established team maintains. Reputation is everything.
It sounds like there are different speeds of growth possible, too. You mentioned rapid expansion versus maybe more controlled growth earlier.
Yes, and the sources definitely discuss the trade-offs there. Rapid expansion, maybe doubling your equipment and staff in a single year can grab market share quickly.
But the risks.
Significant risks. Cash flow problems are common, stretching your management resources too thin, just generally risking operational chaos if you haven't built the systems first.
Yeah, the alternative.
A steadier, more controlled approach. Perhaps adding one new crane per year, but only after the previous one is consistently profitable and integrated. It might mean slower initial growth, but it usually offers much greater operational stability and less risk.
So the choice really depends on the owner's personal risk tolerance and their long-term vision for the business.
Exactly. You need to choose the path that aligns best with your goals and your comfort level, but whichever path you take. Leaning on those foundational elements we've discussed, effective delegation, leveraging automation and software, the strategic use of rentals when appropriate, investing heavily in training and structured processes, that's what allows you to handle both increasing scale and the daily demands of running the business without the owner getting completely burned out.
Wow. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've really dug into how to attract and keep the best operators, how to free up the owner's precious time by delegating and automating, structuring the business for real independence so it doesn't rely solely on them being there.
Right.
And then finally, thinking strategically about whether and how to grow.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is how interconnected all these elements are. You see how they build on each other.
How so?
Well, you need strong, reliable people to make delegation actually work. You need robust systems and documented processes to enable that owner independence. And you absolutely need both solid people and reliable systems firmly in place before you can achieve sustainable growth. Whether you choose that rapid path or the steadier one, they really are prerequisites.
So it's not just about acquiring more assets, more cranes. It's about building a smarter, more resilient, more systematized operation from the inside out.
Precisely. That's the core message running through all these sources. And as you listening, think about your business and all these points drawn from the material you shared with us. Here's maybe a final thought to consider, something that came up.
Yeah.
The sources suggest that growth isn't the only measure of success and that your personal priorities matter deeply. So the question for you is, how do you define success for your business right now? Is it solely about scaling up to be the biggest player around? Or is it perhaps about building a stable, profitable operation that allows you the freedom and the independence you were likely seeking when you first decided to start it all?